Hey guys, this is ArtCRH, and today we'll be shading a sphere. Basically, we're going to start off with a light source, because when we look at things around us, there's almost always a source of light, which defines what will be light and what will be dark. And another thing to keep in mind is a lot of times people assume that there are dark black lines outlining everything around us, but really that's just our way of simplifying the objects that we see. These dark cartoonish outlines don't really exist, and we need to be mindful of that when we draw. It's really in the comparison between the two values that creates the line, not the line itself. We're going to start off with a grayscale. Grayscale can be used as a reference to the rest of your piece. To see what will be light and what will be dark, you just use your grayscale and can constantly reference it. Now, the darkest areas of your sphere will clearly be the areas furthest away from the light. So when drawing your grayscale, be mindful that you want as much value as you can get. So this is as dark as I can get with this 2B pencil over here, HB pencil. And that's about as light as I can get, which is the white of the paper. Now we're going to go right in here and actually shade a number of grayscales into our sphere. This is the quickest way of doing it, really. So I'm just going to literally shade a grayscale straight onto my circle, like this, and go around. I'm going to keep doing it until our whole sphere is filled. Now, another thing to do when drawing is to remember that the more layers that you add, the more depth there will be to your piece. So, the more layers of grayscales that we do, the more full and developed our piece will look. So right now, this is just a very primary looking sphere because we're only doing a few sets of grayscale shading inward. Now, there are plenty of ways to shade a sphere, but this personally is the fastest way, I think. And also it allows you to control how realistic you want your sphere to be. The more layers that you put, the less simplified it will look. For a more complex look, you simply add layers. Also allows you to shade quickly, which is another thing that helps a lot in drawing if you're trying to get work done. Here we go. Now, that was the whole grayscale. I basically used the whole grayscale for these sections. Now I'm going to use the lighter sections here as we get closer to the light. Now, as I said, with the comparison being the heart of seeing lines, we need to actually erase some of the lines that we've created here because they're not very realistic. Perhaps this line here, for example. It's in the comparison between this value here, surrounding the circle, and this light value of the circle itself that create the sphere. There we go. I'm just going to go and take another big few sweeps here, build up our sphere a little bit. Now, using erasers is one of the best things that you can ever do because not only does it erase mistakes, but it also adds lots of value in this last section over here of our grayscale. Now, whenever you draw objects in life, there is usually a shadow. So let's go ahead right here and add our shadow. Since our light source is coming from here, we're probably going to have a sphere-shaped shadow right about here. So we're just going to shade this in. And then of course this area here, the darkest. Especially the crevice that meets with the object and the table, in this case. And this is our wonderful sphere.